The aroma of slow-cooked collard greens and spicy galbijim filled the penthouse kitchen, a warm, defiant scent against the sterile cold of the Seoul winter outside. Uchenna Johnson wiped her hands on her apron, her heart beating a frantic rhythm against her ribs. It was New Year's Eve, the night of new beginnings. She placed a hand on the 7-month swell of her belly. "Hold on, little one," she whispered, her southern drawl thick with a comfort she didn't quite feel. "Daddy will be home soon. We're going to be a real family tonight." Uchenna had spent 2 years trying to shrink herself to fit into the Han family's mold. She had straightened her curls, lowered her voice, and learned to bow until her back ached. But tonight, she was done shrinking. Tonight, she had cooked a feast that bridged Atlanta and Seoul. She wanted Min-Jae to see that their child would be beautiful because of the mix, not in spite of it. She pulled her phone from her pocket to check the time. 11:50 p.m. She tapped the contact for her brother, David, back in the States. She needed to hear his voice. She needed him to tell her that she wasn't crazy for trying this hard. Call failed. She frowned. She tapped it again. No service. Hello, guys. Welcome to Amixed African Korean Tales, a space where culture collides with destiny, and ordinary moments turn into unforgettable stories. Before we step into the snow, I want to wish you all a compliments of the season. Whether you are watching this wrapped in a blanket or on your way to work, I hope this new year brings you the kind of breakthrough that changes everything. If you love stories about resilience, hidden identities, and love that fights back, you are home. Like, subscribe, share, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever sent a text that changed your life? Let's continue. The smart lights in the kitchen flickered once, then died. The heating vents stopped humming. The sudden silence was louder than a scream. In a high-tech smart home in Gangnam, systems didn't just fail. They were cut. The front door beeped, not the welcoming chime, but the harsh mechanical click of the master override. Min-Jae walked in. He wasn't alone. His mother, Madame Han, walked in behind him, her fur coat dripping melting snow onto the floor Uchenna had just polished. Min-Jae didn't look at the food. He didn't look at the decorations. He looked at Uchenna as if she were a stain on his existence. Min-Jae, Uchenna stepped forward, her hands instinctively covering her belly. The power just went out. I was trying to call David, but... You have no brother, Min-Jae said. His voice was flat, unrecognizable. You have no husband, you have no home. He threw a stack of photos onto the kitchen island. They slid across the marble, stopping right next to the collard greens. Uchenna looked down, the world tilted. They were grainy security cam stills dated 7 months ago. They showed a woman, unmistakably Uchenna, in her favorite yellow coat, stumbling into a hotel room with a man. The man was tall, his face obscured by shadows and a dark cap. I don't understand, Uchenna stammered, looking from the photos to her husband. I've never been there. Min-Jae, you know me, I don't even drink. I don't go to hotels. The timestamps don't lie, Madame Han hissed, stepping closer. You claimed you were sick that night. You were out breeding. We knew you were low class, but we didn't know you were filth. It's a lie, Uchenna screamed, the tears finally spilling over. I love you, Min-Jae. This baby is yours. Look at me. Min-Jae grabbed her arm. His grip was bruising. That thing inside you is a bastard. I had the doctors run the projection. It's not mine. He dragged her toward the door. Min-Jae, please, it's freezing. I have nowhere to go. Uchenna fought, her heels skidding on the marble. Let me call David. Let me call someone. Your phone is blocked, Min-Jae said coldly. Your cards are canceled. You leave with what is on your back. They reached the foyer. The heavy steel door was already open. The wind howled like a wounded animal, carrying ice shards that stung her skin. He shoved her. Uchenna stumbled, catching herself on the icy porch railing to keep from falling on her stomach. She turned back, gasping, looking into the eyes of the man she had crossed an ocean for. Min-Jae. If you speak to the press, he said, his voice void of any humanity, I will release the photos. I will ruin your name in America too. Disappear, Uchenna. The door slammed. The electronic deadbolt slid home with a final, echoing thud. Uchenna stood in the snow, wearing only a thin maternity sweater and leggings. The cold was instant. It bit through the fabric, gnawing at her bones. She banged on the door until her fists were raw. She screamed until her throat tasted like blood. No one came. The lights inside the house remained dark. They were watching her, waiting for her to freeze or leave. She stumbled down the driveway, the snow soaking her slippers. Panic began to set in, a cold, hard knot in her chest. She needed help. She needed David. Then she remembered the apron. She was still wearing the apron she had cooked in. Deep in the pocket, she felt a hard plastic rectangle, the old burner phone. She used it for international calls to save money. With shaking, numb fingers, she pulled it out. 3% battery. She huddled in the shadow of the estate's brick wall, trying to shield the screen from the snow. She didn't have her contacts. She had to dial David's number from memory. Her fingers were clumsy, frozen blocks of wood. She typed the digits, her vision blurred with tears and cold. David, it's Uchenna. Min-Jae threw me out. He says the baby isn't his. I'm outside the estate on 4th. I'm scared. Please help. She didn't see that she had mistyped the area code. She didn't see that the message wasn't heading to Atlanta. She hit send. The screen flickered. Message sent. Then the phone died. Uchenna slid down the wall, curling into a ball around her belly. I tried, she whispered to the baby. I tried. Across the city, in a penthouse that looked down on Seoul like a fortress, a phone buzzed on a black glass table. Cho Yang-Su, the man they called the Silent King, picked it up. He didn't usually check unknown numbers, but tonight he was waiting for news on a shipment. He opened the text. He read the words, David, Min-Jae threw me out, baby. His eyes, usually cold and unreadable, widened. He stopped at the name David. He stopped at the location. And then he looked at the attached photo Uchenna had accidentally sent, a blurry selfie of her crying face, meant to show her brother she was alive. Yang-Su froze. He knew that face. He hadn't seen it in 7 months, not since a night filled with blood and fog, a night he thought he had hallucinated. He stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. Hyung-Nim, his lieutenant asked, stepping forward. Get the car, Yang-Su said, his voice a low growl that vibrated with a terrifying intensity. And bring the medic. Sir, is it a hit? Yang-Su looked at the phone again, his thumb hovering over the name David in the text. No, he said, grabbing his coat. It's a debt. Back in the snow, Uchenna's eyes were closing. The cold wasn't painful anymore, it was warm. That was a bad sign. She didn't hear the roar of the engine. She didn't see the black Maybach tear around the corner, drifting through the snow with precision violence. She didn't see the man who jumped out before the car even fully stopped. She only felt the sudden, crushing warmth of a heavy wool coat wrapping around her. She felt strong arms lift her up as if she weighed nothing. I've got you, a deep voice rumbled against her ear. It wasn't David, but it sounded like safety. Don't sleep, do not sleep. Uchenna forced one eye open. She saw a sharp jawline, a scar cutting through an eyebrow, and eyes that burned with a terrifying, protective fire. Who? She whispered. Rest now, the man said. The hunt is over. As he carried her into the car, Uchenna let go. She didn't know she hadn't just been saved. She had been claimed. Consciousness returned to Uchenna Johnson not as a flood, but as a slow, painful thawing. The first thing she registered was the absence of the wind. The howling beast that had chased her down the driveway was gone, replaced by a silence so profound it felt heavy. Then came the warmth, a deep, permeating heat that seemed to radiate from the very air around her. She blinked her eyes open. The ceiling was high, painted a charcoal gray that swallowed the shadows. She tried to sit up, but a sharp ache in her joints pinned her back against the mattress. This wasn't her bed. The sheets were silk, cool against her skin, and smelled of sandalwood and rain, a stark contrast to the lavender detergent Madame Han insisted on using. Don't move yet, a voice said. It came from the corner of the room, low and resonant, like a cello bowed in a dark hall. Uchenna gasped, pulling the duvet up to her chin. Her memories crashed into her all at once. The smashed phone, the snow, the alley, the headlights. "Who are you?" she rasped. Her throat felt like it had been scrubbed with glass. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was the man from the car. In the soft light of the bedside lamp, he looked even more terrifying than he had in the snow. He was tall, wearing a black turtleneck that emphasized the width of his shoulders. A faint, jagged scar cut through his left eyebrow, disrupting the perfect symmetry of his face. He held a glass of water in one hand and a small bowl in the other. "I am Cho Yang-Su," he said, placing the items on the nightstand. "Drink. You were hypothermic. Your core temperature dropped dangerously low." Uchenna stared at the water, her thirst warring with her fear. "The baby," she whispered, her hands frantically searching under the duvet for the swell of her stomach. "Is my baby?" "She is fine," Yang-Su said. His voice softened just a fraction. "My physician examined you both while you slept. The heartbeat is strong. You are resilient, Uchenna." She grabbed the water and drank greedily, the cool liquid soothing the fire in her throat. When she finished, she looked at him with wide, wary eyes. "I texted David. I tried to text David. Why are you here? Did you kidnap me?" Yang-Su pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. He moved with a predatory grace, efficient and silent. He reached into his pocket and pulled out her cracked burner phone. He placed it gently on the silk sheet between them. "You missed a digit," he said. "The message came to me." Uchenna stared at the broken device. "So it was a mistake. I called a stranger." "There are no mistakes," Yang-Su replied, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "Only debts waiting to be paid. You asked for David. Is your brother David Johnson? Did he study engineering in Chicago 6 years ago?" Uchenna froze. "How do you know that?" "Because 6 years ago, in a Chicago alley not unlike the one I found you in, 3 men tried to take my life," Yang-Su said. He rolled up his left sleeve slightly, revealing a faded knife scar on his forearm. "I was a student. I was outnumbered. A stranger stepped in. He fought them off. He dragged me to a hospital and waited until I woke up. He told me his name was David Johnson." Uchenna's mouth fell open. David had never mentioned saving a Korean mafia boss. He had only ever mentioned helping a foreign exchange student. "Hey, he saved you." "He gave me a second life," Yang-Su corrected. "And tonight, fate allowed me to return the favor to his sister." The tension in Uchenna's chest loosened, replaced by a wave of overwhelming grief. The adrenaline of survival was fatting, leaving room for the heartbreak of the evening to set in. She covered her face with her hands. "Min-Jae," she sobbed, the name tasting like ash. "He threw me out. He said the baby isn't his. He had photos, Yang-Su, photos of me in a hotel, but I swear I've never been there." Yang-Su didn't offer empty platitudes. He didn't tell her to stop crying. He simply waited, his presence a steady anchor in her storm. When her sobs quieted to sniffles, he handed her a sleek, black satellite phone. "Call him," Yang-Su commanded gently. "He needs to know you are safe, and I need him to know that his debt is settled." Uchenna took the phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the number she knew by heart. It rang once. "Hello," David's voice was panicked, breathless. "Chenna, is that you? The video cut out. I've been calling Min-Jae for hours. He blocked me." "David," she choked out. "I'm okay. I'm safe." "Where are you? What happened?" "Min-Jae, he kicked me out in the snow. He thinks I cheated." She took a shaky breath. "I'm with a man. He says he knows you, Cho Yang-Su." Silence stretched across the line, spanning the ocean between Seoul and Atlanta. Then, David exhaled, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. "Yang-Su," David breathed. "The quiet kid with the knuckles. Chenna, are you with him right now?" "Yes, he's here." "Put him on, please." Uchenna handed the phone to the man sitting beside her. Yang-Su took it, his expression unreadable. He brought the device to his ear. "David," he said. The menace was gone from his voice, replaced by a solemn respect. Uchenna couldn't hear David's side of the conversation, but she watched Yang-Su's face. She saw his jaw tighten. She saw his eyes darken into 2 pools of obsidian. "They stripped her of her coat," Yang-Su said into the phone, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. They smashed her phone. They left her on the street on New Year's Eve. He paused, listening. No, they didn't just kick her out. My men found tire tracks following her. A black van. They were hunting her, David. Uchenna's blood ran cold. Hunting. I handled it, Yang-Su continued. She is in the fortress. No one gets in. No one touches her. He nodded once. I promise, consider it done. He handed the phone back to Uchenna. He wants to say goodbye. David, she whispered. Chenna, her brother's voice was hard now, fierce. You stay with him. Do you hear me? Don't leave that house. Don't try to go back to Min-Jae. Yang-Su, he isn't like us. But he is the only person in that city who can keep you alive right now. Trust him. Okay, she whispered. I love you. I love you too. I'm coming. I'm getting the first flight out. The call ended. Uchenna stared at the black screen, the reality of her situation settling in. She wasn't just a rejected wife. She was a target. Why? She asked, looking up at Yang-Su. Why would Min-Jae want to hurt me? He just wanted me gone. Why send a van? Yang-Su stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Dazzling lights of Seoul sprawled out below them, indifferent to her pain. Because shame is a powerful motivator for the Han family, Yang-Su said without turning around. If you disappear, the scandal disappears. If you survive, if you speak, their empire crumbles. He turned back to her. You are hungry. I will have the porridge brought in. Yang-Su, she stopped him. The photos, they looked so real I saw myself, but I don't remember. Yang-Su paused at the door. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the folded printout of the text she had sent, the one with the blurry selfie. But underneath it, he held another image. Digital, high resolution. It was the photo Min-Jae had thrown on the table. He looked at the photo. He looked at the shadowed man holding Uchenna's waist. A muscle in his jaw feathered. He recognized the coat. He recognized the angle of the man's shoulders. He recognized the date. New Year's Eve. Last year. The night he had been shot. The night a woman had found him bleeding in a hotel corridor, helped him into a room, and cleaned his wound before vanishing. He hadn't seen her face clearly through the pain and blood loss. He had only remembered her scent, vanilla and cocoa butter. He looked at Uchenna now. She smelled of vanilla and cocoa butter. Rest, Uchenna, Yang-Su said, sliding the photo back into his pocket. His voice was thick with a new, terrifying emotion. We will find the truth, and when we do, the Han family will wish they had perished in the snow. He walked out, closing the door softly. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and exhaled a shaky breath. He wasn't just protecting his savior's sister. He was protecting the woman who had saved his life 7 months ago. And if his math was correct, if the dates aligned as perfectly as they seemed to, he wasn't just protecting a stranger's baby. The morning sun hit the glass walls of the penthouse with blinding brilliance, turning the snow-covered city of Seoul into a glittering expanse of white and silver. Uchenna woke up shielding her eyes, her hand instantly going to her stomach. The baby shifted, a slow, rolling movement that served as the only reassurance Uchenna had left. She wasn't in the alley. She wasn't freezing. She was alive. On the bedside table, a neat stack of clothes waited. Soft cream maternity leggings, an oversized cashmere sweater, and thick woolen socks. They were new, the tags still on, clearly purchased by someone who understood that comfort was the only luxury a broken woman craved. Uchenna dressed slowly, her movements stiff. Every bruise from where the security guards had grabbed her ached. She walked out into the open-concept living area, following the smell of roasted coffee and something savory. Cho Yang-Su stood by the kitchen island. He had traded his tactical black turtleneck for a crisp white dress shirt, though the sleeves were rolled up, revealing the intricate ink of a dragon coiling around his forearm. He was reading a tablet, his expression severe. Eat, he said without looking up, gesturing to a bowl of abalone porridge steaming on the counter. It's good for the baby. Uchenna hesitated, then sat. Thank you for the clothes, for everything. Yang-Su finally looked at her. His eyes were dark, unreadable pools. He set the tablet down. Your brother, David. He told me you studied nursing before you came to Korea. Uchenna paused, spoon halfway to her mouth. Yes, I was an RN in Atlanta. Why? 7 months ago, Yang-Su said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming dangerously quiet. New Year's Eve, the night your husband claims you cheated. You said you were visiting friends. I lied, Uchenna admitted, looking down at the porridge. I didn't have friends. Madam Han didn't like me socializing. I went for a walk to clear my head. I ended up near the Shilla Hotel. Yang-Su went very still. And I found a man, she whispered. In the service corridor, he was bleeding. He looked like he was dying. I didn't call the police because he grabbed my hand and begged me not to. I helped him into a service elevator. I got him into a room that was unlocked. I cleaned the wound. It was a deep cut on his side. I stayed until the bleeding stopped, and then I left before he woke up. She looked up, eyes pleading. I didn't sleep with him, Yang-Su. I saved him. And Min-Jae turned that act of kindness into a weapon to destroy me. Yang-Su didn't speak for a long time. He looked at Uchenna, really looked at her, seeing not just the sister of the man who saved him in Chicago, but the woman who had saved him in Seoul. The deep cut she described was a grazing bullet wound. The fog of pain had kept him from seeing her face that night, but he remembered the gentle hands. He remembered the nursing skills. And he remembered that they hadn't slept together. Which meant the baby. He looked at her stomach. If she hadn't slept with him and Min-Jae was infertile, a rumor Yang-Su had heard in the business circles, then the child was indeed Min-Jae's, a miracle the man was too stupid to recognize. Or, unless. Yang-Su pushed the thought away. Now was not the time for biology. It was the time for war. I believe you, Yang-Su said simply, and soon everyone else will too. Across the city, the atmosphere in the Han estate was festive. The breakfast table was set with fine china. Min-Jae sat at the head, nursing a hangover but smiling. The problem was gone. The cleaners, the specialized team his mother had hired, had texted at 3:00 a.m. Package secured, disposal complete. It's a tragedy, really, Madam Han said, buttering a piece of toast. A pregnant woman distraught after her infidelity was exposed, wandering into the snow. The elements can be so cruel. Min-Jae nodded, checking his stock portfolio on his phone. We'll release the statement tomorrow. Mental instability. We'll play the grieving family. The public loves a mourning husband. And the brother, Madam Han asked. The one in America. I blocked him. He's nobody. By the time he gets here, she'll be a cold case file. The doorbell rang. Min-Jae frowned. I told security no visitors. The house manager entered, carrying a sleek black gift box wrapped in a red ribbon. Sir, a courier just dropped this off. He said it was a New Year's gift for the CEO. Min-Jae's vanity got the better of him. He smirked. Probably from the board. They know I'm making moves. He took the box. It was heavy. He pulled the ribbon and lifted the lid. The smile vanished from his face. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was his own smartphone, the one he had used to call the cleaners last night. It was snapped cleanly in half, the jagged edges gleaming. Next to it was a single sheet of heavy, cream-colored stationery. Min-Jae's hands trembled as he picked up the note. Madam Han leaned in, her face paling. You broke her phone. I broke yours. You threw her away. I picked her up. Check your accounts, Min-Jae. You don't own the shipping division anymore. Consider it a down payment on your debt. YS. YS, Madam Han whispered, clutching her pearls. Who is YS? Min-Jae scrambled for his tablet, his fingers flying across the screen to check the company shareholders. His face turned the color of ash. Cho Yang-Su, he choked out. The Silent King. The gangster, Madam Han shrieked. Why, how? He bought the debt, Min-Jae whispered, horror dawning on him. The cleaners, they didn't dispose of her. They must have run into him. Mother, if Cho Yang-Su has Uchenna. The color drained from the room. They hadn't just hunted a rabbit. They had stolen prey from a dragon. Back in the penthouse, Uchenna finished her porridge. She felt stronger. The warmth of the food and the safety of the room were knitting her frayed nerves back together. "Yang-Su," she said softly, "you said you believe me, but Min-Jae, he has the photos. He has the power. How can we fight him?" Yang-Su walked over to her. He didn't touch her. He treated her like she was made of glass, but he stood close enough that she could smell the cedar and rain scent of his cologne. "Min-Jae has money," Yang-Su said. "I have leverage, he has lies, I have the truth." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small USB drive. He placed it on the table. "My men recovered the full footage from the hotel server this morning," he lied smoothly. He had owned the footage for months, unknowingly. "It shows you entering the room. It shows you leaving 20 minutes later alone. It shows you fully clothed. It shows you saving a man's life." Uchenna let out a sob of relief, clutching her chest. "Thank God, thank God." "But Uchenna," Yang-Su said, his voice dropping, "there is something else. The man in the video, the man you saved. Min-Jae didn't just choose a random clip to frame you. He chose a clip involving the one man in Seoul he is terrified of." Uchenna looked up, confused. Who was the man?" Yang-Su looked at her, his expression intense, possessive, and terrifyingly calm. "Me." Uchenna gasped, her eyes flying to the scar on his eyebrow, then to the spot on his side where she had pressed a towel 7 months ago. "You," she whispered. "I saved you." "You saved me," Yang-Su confirmed. "And now, by the laws of my world, your life belongs to me, which means your enemies are my enemies." He turned toward the window, looking out at the city covered in snow. "Min-Jae wants a war," Yang-Su said softly. "I will give him an apocalypse." The revelation hung in the air between them, heavier than the snow piling up on the balcony. Uchenna stared at the man who had saved her last night, trying to reconcile the terrifying mafia boss with the bleeding, vulnerable stranger she had nursed 7 months ago. "It was you," she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "You were the one in the service corridor." "I was," Yang-Su said. He didn't move toward her. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, respectful of the shock rippling through her. "I had been ambushed. My men were scattered. I dragged myself to that floor hopping for a miracle. I found you." Uchenna's hand went to her mouth. "You were delirious. You kept grabbing my wrist, telling me not to call the police. You said they would kill us both." "And you listened," Yang-Su said softly. "You risked your safety, your reputation, and your marriage to help a dying man. You cleaned the wound, bound it, and gave me water. When I woke up, you were gone. I searched for you, Uchenna, but the hotel staff had been bribed to wipe the logs. I didn't know your name until last night." He stepped closer, his dark eyes intense. "Min-Jae used that act of mercy to destroy you. He took the one moment where you were a savior and painted you as a sinner." Uchenna felt a fresh wave of tears, but these weren't tears of despair. They were tears of validation. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't a cheater. She was a hero who had been punished for her goodness. "Does he know?" she asked. "Does Min-Jae know it was you in the video?" "He suspects," Yang-Su said, a cold smile touching his lips. "He knows he bought a debt from Cho Yang-Su this morning. He knows the timeline matches. Right now, he is sitting in that mansion, terrified that the stranger he framed you with is the one man who can erase his entire lineage." The elevator chimed. Uchenna flinched, instinctively stepping behind Yang-Su. He didn't block her view. He simply shifted his stance, placing himself between her and the door. A human shield. The doors slid open. A man burst out, disheveled, wearing a travel coat that looked like he had slept in it. He carried a duffel bag and looked ready to fight the entire world. "Uchenna." "David." Uchenna broke from behind Yang-Su and ran. Her brother met her halfway, dropping his bag and engulfing her in a hug so tight it lifted her off her feet. She buried her face in his neck, smelling the familiar scent of home, peppermint gum and stale airplane air. "I got the first flight," David choked out, pulling back to look at her. He scanned her face, her arms, her belly. "Did they hurt you? Did he touch you?" "I'm okay," she sobbed. "I'm okay, David, Yang-Su. He found me." David looked up. He locked eyes with the silent king. For a moment, the room was tense. Then, David straightened. He walked past his sister and stood before the most dangerous man in Seoul. "You look different without the bandages," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "You look older," Yang-Su replied evenly. David extended his hand. "Chicago, 6 years ago, you said if I ever needed anything." "I remember," Yang-Su said, grasping David's hand in a warrior's grip. "I told you I pay my debts. Your sister is safe, David, on my life." David exhaled, his shoulders slumping as the adrenaline left him. "Thank you, man, thank you." "Come," Yang-Su said, gesturing to the living area. "We have work to do. The Han family is not sitting idle." He was right. As they settled on the sofas, Yang-Su picked up the remote and turned on the massive wall-mounted television. He switched to a major news network. The headline flashed in bold red letters: "Tragedy AT Han Corporation. CEO's wife missing." Uchenna gasped. On the screen, Min-Jae was standing at a podium, looking pale and devastated. He was wearing black, holding a handkerchief. Madame Han stood behind him, looking stoic and mournful. "My wife, Uchenna, has been struggling with severe mental health issues for months," Min-Jae lied to the cameras, his voice cracking theatrically. "Last night, during a manic episode, she ran away from our home. We are terrified for her safety and the safety of our unborn child. We fear she may be a danger to herself." "He's lying," Uchenna screamed at the screen. "He threw me out, he smashed my phone." "We are offering a reward for her safe return," Min-Jae continued. "Please, if you see her, do not approach her. She is unstable. Contact the police or the Han family security immediately." "They are controlling the narrative," David said, packing the room angrily. "They're painting you as crazy so that if you tell the truth, no one will believe you. If you go to the police now, they'll just hand you back to Min-Jae for psychiatric care." "It's a trap," Yang-Su agreed, his eyes fixed on the screen. "They want to lock you away in a facility until the baby is born. Then they will take the child and dispose of you." Uchenna wrapped her arms around her stomach, trembling. "They win. Even when I escape, they win. I can't go out there. I'm a fugitive." "No," Yang-Su said. The word was sharp, cutting through the fear in the room. He turned off the TV, plunging the room into silence. "You are not a fugitive, Uchenna. You are the plaintiff." He walked over to a sleek black console table and picked up a velvet box. He handed it to her. "Min-Jae wants to play the grieving husband. He wants to pretend you are a helpless, crazy woman wandering in the snow." Yang-Su's eyes burned with a dark intensity. "Then we will show the world exactly who you are." Uchenna opened the box. Inside lay a necklace, a single, flawless diamond suspended on a platinum chain. It was elegant, heavy, and undeniably powerful. "Tomorrow night is the New Year's charity gala," Yang-Su said. "The Han family will be there, soliciting pity and donations. The entire business world will be watching." "You want me to go?" Uchenna whispered. "They'll have me arrested." "They won't touch you," Yang-Su said. "Because you won't be walking in as Uchenna Han, the rejected wife. You will be walking in as my guest." David looked at Yang-Su, concerned. "You're taking her into the lion's den." "I am taking her to the slaughterhouse," Yang-Su corrected, looking at Uchenna. "But she will be holding the knife." He looked at Uchenna. "You spent 2 years shrinking yourself to fit their small lives. You learned their language, their customs, their etiquette. You tried to be invisible. Tomorrow, you will be the most visible woman in Seoul." Uchenna looked at the necklace, then at the reflection of herself in the dark window. She saw the fear in her eyes, but underneath it, she saw something else. The anger of a mother who had almost lost her child. The pride of a woman who had saved a life. She thought of Min-Jae's fake tears. She thought of Madame Han calling her baby a mongrel. She snapped the velvet box shut. "I don't have a dress," she said, her voice steady. Yang-Su smiled, a rare, terrifying expression that promised ruin to his enemies. He pulled his phone from his pocket. "The stylists are already downstairs," he said. "Do you prefer red or gold?" Uchenna looked him in the eye. "Red," she said, "the color of war." Section 5. The grand ballroom of the Shilla Hotel was a sea of black tuxedos and glittering gowns. It was the center of Seoul's power, a place where deals were made over champagne and reputations were destroyed with a whisper. Min-Jae stood near the ice sculpture, looking every inch the grieving husband. He wore a somber black suit, his face pale and drawn, a look practiced for hours in the mirror that morning. "She was always fragile," he said to a sympathetic board member, dabbing his dry eyes. "We tried to get her help, but the culture shock, the isolation," she just snapped. "Tragic," the board member murmured. "And the baby." "We fear the worst," Madame Han interjected smoothly, clutching her son's arm. "A woman in that state, wandering in the snow, we can only pray." Across the room, the press pit was buzzing. They were there for the charity auction, but the story of the missing CEO's wife was the real draw. They wanted a tragedy. They wanted a body count. At 8:00 p.m. sharp, the heavy double doors at the top of the grand staircase swung open. Usually, the arrival of guests was a steady trickle, but the sudden hush that fell over the room was immediate. The music faltered. Heads turned. Cho Yang-Su stood at the top of the stairs. He was a ghost in these circles, rarely seen, always feared. He wore a tuxedo that fit his broad frame like armor, the black velvet lapels absorbing the light. He stood with the relaxed, lethal posture of a tiger walking into a petting zoo. "The Silent King," someone whispered. "What is he doing here?" Min-Jae froze. His champagne glass tilted dangerously in his hand. He had just received the transfer notice of his shipping division that morning. Seeing the man who stole it standing in his ballroom felt like a hallucination. But Yang-Su didn't descend. He turned slightly, extending his hand to someone still in the shadows of the foyer. A woman stepped into the light. The room gasped. It was Uchenna, but it wasn't the Uchenna anyone remembered. The shy, mousy woman who wore beige cardigans and looked at the floor was gone. This woman was a queen. She wore a gown of deep, blood-red silk that draped over her pregnant form like liquid fire. It was cut to showcase the swell of her belly, celebrating the life inside her rather than hiding it. Her natural hair was styled in a magnificent, gravity-defying crown of curls adorned with gold pins. Around her neck, the diamond Yang-Su had given her glittered under the chandeliers, cold and bright. She didn't look crazy. She didn't look fragile. She looked terrifyingly beautiful. David stepped out behind her, looking sharp in a suit, his eyes scanning the crowd for threats. But Uchenna took Yang-Su's arm. Together, they began to descend the stairs. Click, click, click. The silence broke as the paparazzi exploded. Flashes turned the room into a lightning storm. "Uchenna. Mrs. Han. Is it true you ran away?" Min-Jae felt the blood drain from his face. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible." Madame Han gripped his arm, her nails digging in. "Do something. She's ruining the narrative. Call security. Say she's having an episode." Min-Jae snapped out of his shock. He pushed through the crowd, his face twisting into a mask of fake concern. "Uchenna," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Oh, thank God, honey." He rushed to the bottom of the stairs just as Uchenna and Yang-Su reached the floor. Min-Jae reached out to grab her. "You're safe. We've been so worried. You're confused. You need to come with me." A hand shot out. It wasn't a violent strike. It was a wall. Yang-Su's hand clamped onto Min-Jae's wrist, stopping him inches from Uchenna's skin. The grip was immovable. The room went dead silent. "Let go of my wife," Min-Jae hissed, though his eyes darted nervously to the scar on Yang-Su's brow. "Your wife?" Yang-Su asked, his voice low enough to rumble in Min-Jae's chest, yet projected perfectly for the nearby cameras. "Strange. According to the text messages you sent her on New Year's Eve, she has no husband, no home, and no family." Min-Jae paled. "She's sick, she's hallucinating, I never." "And the baby," Yang-Su continued, stepping closer, forcing Min-Jae to step back. "You told the board she was carrying a bastard. You threw a pregnant woman into the snow to freeze. That does not sound like a husband, Min-Jae." "That sounds like a murderer." "Lies," Madame Han shrieked, pushing forward. She is a cheater, we have proof. She was in a hotel with a stranger. Uchenna stepped forward. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird, but she felt the heat of Yang-Su beside her and the strength of David behind her. She looked at her mother-in-law. For the first time in 2 years, she didn't look down. Show them, Uchenna said. Her voice was steady, amplified by the acoustics of the hall. Show them the photo, Madame Han. Madame Han faltered, confused by the challenge. You have no shame. The man in the photo, Uchenna said, her voice rising, ringing with truth. The man you claimed I slept with, the man you said fathered this child. She pointed a trembling finger at Yang-Su. Is him. The collective gasp of the crowd sucked the air out of the room. Cameras swiveled to Yang-Su. Min-Jae looked at the silent king and then at the memory of the photo. The height, the build, the date. The realization hit Min-Jae like a physical blow. He hadn't just framed his wife. He had framed her with the most dangerous man in Korea. Yang-Su looked at Min-Jae, a cold, predatory smile touching his lips. You accused her of infidelity with a stranger, Yang-Su said smoothly. But you were wrong, Min-Jae. She saved my life that night. She nursed a wound you couldn't even stomach looking at, and because of your lie, you have bound her fate to mine. He released Min-Jae's wrist with a dismissive shove. Min-Jae stumbled back, nearly tripping over his mother. This woman is under my protection, Yang-Su announced to the room, to the cameras, to the world. Any slander against her is a declaration of war against the Cho family. Any attempt to touch her. Well, you saw what happened to your shipping division this morning. Min-Jae's knees buckled. The shipping division, the phone, the photo, it was all real. Yang-Su turned to Uchenna. He offered his arm again. Shall we? He asked softly. Uchenna looked at Min-Jae, who was now surrounded by whispering board members and flashing cameras, his narrative crumbling to dust in real time. She looked at the exit. Yes, she said. They walked through the parting crowd like royalty. David walked behind them, shooting a glare at Min-Jae that promised future violence. As they reached the doors, Uchenna glanced back one last time. She saw Min-Jae standing in the wreckage of his reputation, small and terrified. She touched her belly. She had lost a husband, but she had found a king. The doors opened to the cold night air, but Uchenna didn't shiver. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't walking into the cold alone. The future. Uchenna has officially stepped out of the shadows. She didn't just survive the snow, she walked back into the fire and burned the Han family's lies to the ground. But guys, this is not the end. This is just the declaration of war. Part 2 is going to be explosive. Min-Jae is cornered, and a cornered rat bites. We still have questions. Is the baby actually Min-Jae? Or is there a miracle twist coming with Yang-Su? How will the Han family retaliate now that they have nothing to lose? And most importantly, will Uchenna and Yang-Su cross the line from protector and survivor to something deeper? If you want part 2 immediately, you need to destroy that like button. Let's get this story to 10,000 likes, and I will drop the next episode where the real revenge begins. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You do not want to miss what happens when the silent king goes to war for his queen. Stay tuned.